The pick is in.
The Sacramento Kings have made their selection in the 2024 NBA Draft. I'm Kylan Mills, and we are joined by Matt George of Locked On Kings to break down that selection. And here it is. This is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedon. With the 13th overall pick in the 2024 draft, the Kings have selected Devin Carter, guard out of Providence. And before we even get to Carter, Matt, my first question for you is, were you expecting the Kings to trade away this pick? Because there was a lot of talk about maybe doing that to bring in more of a win now piece. So were you surprised to see the selection even happen?
You could use the word both expectation and hope. It was my hope that Sacramento would send this pick out and would move this pick to try and get more of a established NBA presence to not only help this team get back to the playoffs, but help them truly try and compete in a Western Conference that is brutal and is only getting more tough. You see all the moves that are being made around the league before the draft even began are wing-heavy moves. And this is a Kings team that lacks significant wing and forward depth. They were torn to shreds by the New Orleans Pelicans, losing to the Pelicans 6 times, including to be eliminated in the play-in tournament because the Kings couldn't match up and meet the depth at the wing that the Pelicans had. It's a clear weakness of this Kings team. It still is a clear weakness. They go the route they go, drafting a guard. Certainly some concerns and curiosities about that pick, which I'm sure we'll get into. I'm also talking myself into it a little bit more as I think about it. But in terms of trading the pick, it was what I was hoping the Sacramento Kings would do. The good news is they still have all their assets going forward to still make a move this offseason trade-wise if they want to.
All right, well, Carter coming out of Providence, 6'2", 193, great defensively, supposed to be a tenacious defender, but you pointed out the fit with this Kings team based on the need. They just extended another guard, or at least a combo guard, in Malik Monk. What's the role you see Carter carving out for himself, and is there one?
There's just a tremendous abundance of guards here in Sacramento, and this is continuation of a trend. Kings general manager Monty McNair, he has a type. Older guards. That is kind of what Monty has gone with consistently since he came into the NBA, from Davion Mitchell to Tyrese Halliburton to now Devin Carter. Like, he loves to go for that kind of type of player. Like I said, the Kings have an abundance of those players on this roster. So the initial reaction was, what in the world? Why are you going out and getting another guy like this when you clearly have holes in the wing that you need to address? But one of my key focuses or purposes of this offseason for the Sacramento Kings was getting your roster and getting your system on the same page. Mike Brown is preaching defense first. And the team last year, even though being an offensive focused roster, managed to improve to a top 15 defense in the league, which many thought was impossible with that group. Mike continues to preach this. The Kings have kind of, with they re-upping and re-signing or extending Mike Brown, they have essentially committed to the way that he wants to do things. So they went out and got a guy that I think fits that Mike Brown guy mold to a T. Someone who's going to come in, is going to work his butt off on the defensive end. The Kings need more kind of dog mentality guys on defense. Carter seems to be able to bring that. His shooting went up his third year in college. The first 2 years, he was in the high 20s. Last season, he was a really solid three-point shooter on a pretty good volume. So offensively, you could see the spacing working if he was playing next to De'Aaron Fox. But the defense is the main thing. And I think adding more of that to this Kings roster isn't necessarily a bad thing, as long as they get rid of the abundance of guards that they have to still address their wing needs.
It was fascinating when Mike Brown went to the Sacramento Kings, coming from the Golden State Warriors, where he was the defensive coordinator and did an excellent job of making the Warriors one of the top, most efficient defenses in the NBA, to see them struggle. But now you're starting to see the Mike Brown style come, as you pointed out, the defensive improvements as a team. Carter certainly will add to that. As you're trying to convince yourself and talk yourself into this pick, you pointed out the dog mentality and some of the positives. Anything else that fans can be excited about when they look at Devin Carter coming to this team, and then future moves that the Kings could make this offseason?
Yeah, I think fans need to give the player the chance and not the position, right? And that's something that's hard for all of us to deal with, because there's always a debate in the draft, right? Do you go best fit or best player available? And I am typically, even though historically it's burnt the Kings in the past, I've been more of the better fit over the best player available argument for a while, especially with this Kings team right now, who is in a position where they're looking to win right away. I mean, through the own words of Monty McNair, their general manager, this team is built to win right now. So that's why I thought instead of adding a rookie, why not go and add a more established NBA talent in the trade market, which they, again, still can do. But I hope fans give Carter the patience to be able to show that he can impact winning on the Sacramento Kings, even as a rookie. Now, what does that look like? I don't know what his role is. There's some here in Sacramento that believe he could turn into that eventual long-term starting two guard next to De'Aaron Fox, with the assumption that Malik Monk is going to continue to come off the bench in that six-man role. I'm skeptical about that right away. We'll see if that's what he can develop into, but the Kings are in the business of winning today. So as much as they want to develop a rookie for tomorrow or the next few seasons, I understand that. But if Carter can help the Kings win right away, he's going to get playing time. If he can't, he's going to be on the bench.
It's the big challenge. How can you develop young pieces while also trying to focus on winning now? A very difficult thing to do in the NBA. Matt George of Locked On Kings, once again, thanks so much for joining us. Devin Carter going to the Kings with a 13th overall pick.
My pleasure.
Providence point guard Devin Carter is perhaps the most versatile guard in this entire draft class. I'm Andy Patton, the host of the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. Carter is a 6'3" guard who did a little bit of everything last year for Kim English and the Friars. Armed with an elite 6'8" wingspan, Carter is a high-level defender and rebounder for his position, who averaged just under 20 points per game last year while posting elite defensive numbers and shooting about 38% from three. Carter's length and defensive chops are reminiscent of a pair of Boston guards Drew Holiday and Derek White, and while that's a tough ceiling, it is within reach for the versatile guard. For more on Devin Carter, the Big East, and all things college basketball, check out the Locked On College Basketball Podcast on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts.
For more on the Sacramento Kings, subscribe to Locked On Kings on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. And for continuing coverage of the 2024 NBA Draft, subscribe to Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.